This is for the leaders, the visionaries, the hope bringers, kindness instigators. This is your place to get loved, poured into, activated, and inspired. Hi there. Welcome to a fireside chat. I'm going to get to the recording from today's session in just a moment, but I did want to share in this episode, you're going to hear us talk about something brand new that I've never offered before called intuitive guidance sessions. These sessions are 45 minutes in length and they're designed to kind of spot you on your journey or just see you where you are. I've never offered just one-off sessions, so that's why it's new to me. But these are places where, just like you go see a chiropractor for an adjustment or a dentist for a cleaning, maybe you're feeling like you need more clarity or just want some support on your way, or just having space held for you. Um, where you could just use someone to sit with you in safety and see you at the level of your soul in order to be able to come into more clarity or into next steps that you may be wondering about your business or your life. They're 45 minutes in length, and right now through July 20th, I'm offering them for $35, which is an incredible deal. Again, I've never offered one-off sessions and I've never offered them at this rate. The reason I'm offering them for such a low amount is because I wanted to be able to practice leaning into something a little different, testing it out, but also because I want it to be a no-brainer. I want it to be super easy for you to step into this, especially if you're a woman in leadership, and especially if you are just a woman in general, because so often we put ourselves last. We don't invest into ourselves. We don't take the time and space to value and support ourselves. And what I have witnessed in my own work and my own journey is that if I will put that oxygen mask on first, if I will receive that support, my life, my business, my family all reap the benefits. And so we're actually going to unpack a little bit about a session, one of these sessions that I held in the last couple of weeks from today's episode. I had my friend Ixchel on with me this morning to talk about what transpired from our session and the ways that it will also liberate and activate you. At least that's my hope. So I'll put in the show notes here a way that you can book that call if you're interested. And if you want more clarity or you have some questions before you feel like you want to book, my email is just my name, Evelyn Fuson, Evelyn Fuson at gmail.com, and I'll be able to take care of you there. So without further ado, let's hop into the episode. Well, good morning. Welcome to Fireside Friday, July 11th, 2025. It's really good to be with you all this morning. And in fact, I am not going to be alone today. I asked my dear friend Ixchel, aka Turkey is my nickname for her, if she would mind coming on with me today because for the last, probably for the whole of Fireside Fridays, there has always been a link going on where we're talking about how to love and lead ourselves as we want to make deeper impact in our leadership and our love in the world. And Ixchel came into a session with me that I've just started offering. They're called intuitive guidance sessions, and it happened a couple weeks ago. And she's had some things transpire for her, and I don't want to take words away from her. So, Ixchel, if you'll come on with me, and I'm going to actually um, pin you too. Let me see if I can pin us both. So if we have anything coming in and out, it doesn't get too distracting. But welcome, Ixchel. It's so good to see you.
Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you for having me. And I'm grateful for you having me to come in.
Yes, I'm really excited. So Ixchel it was great because something I've been doing in these offers, it's a brand new kind of offer for me, at least where someone could book in for a single session. I've never offered those before, the way that I have felt led to offer. It's almost like if you're going to a chiropractor for an adjustment, just so that someone could come in and get some support. Around something they may be facing, or they may not even know why they're booking the call. They just know, hey, I need someone here in the room with me, a safe place to just receive some guidance or even having space to just share where we are. And so for Ixchel's call, this was cool. So since it's something I'm testing and something that um, I'm learning how to follow my unapologetic being into the world. Before Ishel's call, all I could think was play. We need play. And I hadn't done my hair yet that day, or I'd gotten out of the shower. And I came to a point where I was like, I think I should do some method acting where I show up to the call a little bit silly. So what I did was I wrapped my hair. I have this hair wrap that you can sleep in or you leave in for a couple hours. This is what I did last night. So I could wake up and pull it out and just pull it back so it looked nice. So I don't have to do a lot with it. But I showed up to Ixchel's call in this hair wrap because for me, that's all I kept getting is play. We need some play. We need some laughter. And there were some tears as well. But Ixchel, I just want you to talk about maybe where you were, what you received, and what you've done since our call, because it's really powerful when we get examples of what following our play, our expansive yes, our pleasure and our play lead us to great places, and that's not something that we're often taught. So here's a real life scenario where this beautiful woman uh, started leaning into that. And I want you all to hear what happened.
Thank you, Evelyn. Well, let me start off by saying that no matter where you are in your journey, if you're starting to lean more into connecting with yourself and whatever spiritual practice you have, that you're always going to have these like I see it either as a wheel or as hills, right? We're going to have ups and downs, and we're going to move through a lot of shifts and changes and grief and all the in-betweens, right? And sometimes we get stuck, or sometimes we move through it, or you think you're stuck because you're trying to move through it so fast that you're not pausing, right? And also you're on burnout, so that doesn't help. So that just gives you a little bit of a background of where I was. Um, I've worked a lot on my connecting with my intuition while dealing with so much in the background, such as my father-in-law dying, my cat dying, my mother-in-law dying, all within like maybe 2 years period, and handling or managing a household, homeschooling, blah 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 blah. And so I never realized A that I was on burnout, which does not surprise me that when I talked to Evelyn, play came. Now, over the last month and a half, I really started finally leaning into giving some time to myself. And I started focusing on at least 2 hours every single morning to journal and meditate and just nurture myself and nourish myself. And I remember, and this is something I didn't mention to you, Evelyn, is that I remember hearing movement, right? So to me, I was hearing it as movement. I need movement. And you were hearing it as more detailed, like fun, but fun movement, not just go exercise in the treadmill to move. It's bring joy back into your life. Because now that you've nourished yourself, now we need to do something fun and bring in joy. And so coming into the session with Evelyn, that's where I was. I didn't even realize to a certain extent, A, that I was in burnout prior to, and that's what I was healing from. I thought it was like the grief and just every heaviness. Um, and B, that I really, even though I homeschool and I spend time with my son, I wasn't bringing in joy for myself, like things that brought me joy. And I gotta love my son. He always he's been asking for music in the car, and that used to bring me so much joy. So again, the universe speaks through people sometimes when you're not listening, but sometimes you just need that clarity, that like pointing that this is what you need, right? And so when I sat with Evelyn, it was eye-opening. It was a moment of not just clarity, a moment of like my soul felt like, ah, that's what it was that I needed at that moment that I was missing. And I think we all need it again. We are surrounded by people that support us, and sometimes we are just in the muck of it, and we're just not either ready to hear it or being listening because we're not paying attention. And so during my call, just hearing her express that as well as holding space for me and giving me permission to feel through the anger that I was still holding on to and giving me actionable ways of releasing that without shaming myself. That was really, really almost like another linchpin in the process. We all have those moments. And after that, since then, it was kind of like almost like a cascading effect of not just joy, but of things that lit me up and headed me in the direction um, where do I even begin? I had throughout this whole month and a half of doing meditation, I had not realized that this week actually I had set myself up to have events where I had fun and I was honoring myself and I don't know if you guys have ever watched Parks and Recreation where some of the characters are like, "Oh, you should treat yourself," right?
Treat
Okay.
yourself.
Yeah. And I had done that for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, which included doing somatic treatment on Wednesday and then some mom time with some of the women in my homeschooling group virtually, as well as getting my hair done. I mean, I have not dyed my hair in ages, like professionally done, as well as getting my hair cut and having my hair blown out. And I'm supposed to have photography done as well, but I think that might be canceled because we're supposed to have it. But the thing is, I hesitated to say yes to the to getting my hair done because I was still kind of coming in from that perspective of, but that's like, as women, we always put ourselves last, right? And really, it was kind of like a click of hearing my husband say those words and remembering what Evelyn said, and then thinking, is this fun for me? And if that's a yes, then I shouldn't shame myself for it, and I should say yes to it. And I did. Um, and when I was looking for the hairdresser, I leaned into my intuition. I picked a particular salon that I had never gone to, a particular person, and when I got to her chair, we started talking about some of the things that I should be doing for self-care on my hair. And one of the things she had talked about was keratin treatment, and I told her, well, I had done that before, but I dropped the ball. And
You were focusing on your business, right?
y n not at that moment, but because I was making space for fun, business came up. Because I told her, I'm like, well, I'm doing homeschooling, my business, and this, all of that. And she's like, oh, well, what do you do? What business do you have? And I told her what I did. I'm a fractional CFO and like business strategist. And she like stopped and said, I need you, like out of nowhere. And if we kept talking, and one of the things that came up is, I really need you. You need to bring in your business cards because I know a lot of people that need you. And also, um, I've been praying.
Mm.
I've been praying for God to surround me with the people that I need in order to grow my business. So at that moment, it was like click, click, click for me because if we allow ourselves to have fun, if we nourish ourselves, if we nurture ourselves, which is something that we're told all the time, but sometimes we take for granted, everything just starts falling into place. I have been stuck on my marketing forever. Nicole here knows. She's probably giggling in the background. That's like I've been playing the peekaboo game of visibility because it just feels so it just, you know, whatever happens with that particular client, whether I have a long-term relationship with her or a short one, what matters is I made space for fun. I listened, right? I reflected, I nourished myself in a multitude of ways, and I just trusted that ping and went with it. And so much magic happened. And that we're talking about a 2 week difference or a week and a half difference. I just feel like it
Like
felt
exhale. Yes.
yes. And it's kind of like being coming out of that phase of burnout and you don't realize you're burning out, you're just kind of surviving, right? And then taking time and it's like one thing after the other and you start feeding yourself and the universe is always feeding you. But when you are denying yourself that food, you're suffering, y- you know?
Mhm.
So that was my experience with Evelyn. And I reached out to her and let her know I was so excited of all the things that happened.
Well, and I've been also along I've been privileged to watch some of your journey unfold, and what I love about this really aligned client is that I know for a couple years you've been looking to shift in a different
Hmm.
way to support. And so I love that when you started taking yourself into consideration
Hmm.
and really leaning into that, that's when that moment came. That's when
Hmm.
that connection was ready and there for you. And anyone listening to, I think that in the past, I used to be really hard on myself for not understanding something sooner or faster, or whatever, because I think in so many ways, we're such, at least in the West, we're such a young country, but also we're in such a modern paced artificial world that says, well, this is capable and it's capable of happening now. It was capable of happening yesterday. But really and truly, that's, in my opinion, that's actually not the pace that's meant for us. And sometimes in seasons of burnout, in seasons of lots of loss, because there was a lot of grief that came up in that session too. There was grief, there were things that just needed to be witnessed and acknowledged. And Ixchel too, for the strength and the fortitude that she had to expend over the last 2 years to survive her life. That woman in her was also craving acknowledgement. And so, what I love about this week that she had planned, that she kind of forgot about, that was coming at just the right moment, and then was also receiving support from her partner and recognizing, hey, you need to take care of yourself, which is also growth. All of these things working in tandem to love Ixchel back because Ixchel was starting to love herself. And what I like too, in our session, and I remember this because um, her son was there. She had headphones on like she does now, but he caught something about maybe being in nature or Mother Nature. And we were talking about cloud gazing because that's something that really brings Ixchel a lot of joy. And I don't know what was said, something about Mother Nature holding her, something. He caught something because from the background, he said, yeah, Mother Nature loves you, Mama. Like it was just talk about the mouths, truth from the mouths of babes, just reiterating like you are held, you are loved, you are seen. The universe, Mother Earth, wants to hold you, values you. And that was that same conversation where we were talking about, nourished women are unstoppable. Um, because women are powerful. We are. What I like to, thinking about what you shared as well, Ixchel, was thinking about I was moving my body. I felt like I was supposed to move it. But that was going more to the ways that I should be taking care of my body. Now, some of that's a great invitation. And some of it too is like, where can we let some of those expectations um, fall away for what do I truly want? What am I craving? What am I willing to engage if I'll allow myself? And like I said, the reason too I wanted Ixchel to come on is to be an example of what happens when we are able to actually let go a little bit, that exhale, that breathing into our life, not holding our breath, like grasping, when is it going to be over? And sometimes there are seasons like that. And if you're listening and you're in a season like that too, that's okay to be right there in that space as well. That serves a purpose too, because where Ixchel came out of, and where she's going, all of these things I believe are working to deliver her into the life that she's craving, to serve the clients that she longs to support. And she's a powerhouse of support, because something too that I love too about her work is that she really wants to honor women inside of their businesses, take a lot of shame and a lot of judgment around the financial aspects of our businesses and our lives, because there's been so much abuse around that. And that's, talk about an exhale. I did a session with Ixchel a couple years ago, or we were talking about some things, or maybe it wasn't even a session. Maybe we were talking just about life and business. And I shared really openly about some of the places that I was bullying myself or upset with myself. I had so much debt or whatever was coming up. And all Ixchel did was hold space for me in that. And also really look at what I was coming through and the way the system is built and how I was inside of that system trying to make sense of life. And so even in you coming in here, Ixchel, too, I just want to also shine the light on you and your gifts, because for me, in those moments, I also needed that exhale. I needed that permission to be a human being, having an experience of learning how to uh, go through life and what I was piecing together too. And your support as someone who is an expert in her field, because she is, was so wonderful to be seen, to have that space held for me beyond judgment, and also like to release judgment, because there really wasn't any need for it. And I think that's on another gift of being able to sit with people who want bigger, expansive lives for us, sometimes than we can even see for ourselves. So, Ixchel, anything else you want to add about the last 2 weeks, or anything that's coming to mind?
Um, there was something that popped up when you were talking. I've noticed that when you talked about movement and how we're choosing, right? I could have gotten on the treadmill. I could have started doing weights, but no, I was drawn to nature, and so I just honored it. And we've had a lot of rain here the last couple of days, so it's not like I could go outside necessarily, but I don't feel drawn to do the heavy lifting. What I have done is sorry, I also did a cleanse and shifted my diet because I was feeling really just not right inside. And so, really listening to my body really helped to define what healthy meant for me and what movement felt good, and just honoring myself. And again, reiterating what you said was that when we nourish ourselves, we're powerful and things just start to fall into place.
Fall into place and support
Mhm,
us on our paths. Yes. And I think that that's, I think again, too, if you're listening and that feels stretchy, or it feels like life hasn't been kind, or that's something that you can't trust, all you can do is test it out. All
mhm,
you can do is test, and see what comes forward, see what might happen if you follow that expansion, and if you lean into that. And that is a different way of being. It's a different way of being than we've been taught. Most of us have been taught to ignore our instinct, ignore ourselves, especially as women, in order to serve and to become all things to all people. But if we really like value ourselves the way that we value other people, value our children, would we ever put that on them? No, that's never. Sure, we want to encourage them to grow good habits, or things that support their nourishment and their overall health, but not to the detriment of who they are, not to the detriment of survival. I think that's the other thing too, is even recognizing where we might be in survival in our life sometimes is kind of sneaky. Well, I'm doing all the right things. But if we really sit with ourselves and ask, like, well, what if I wasn't concerned about if it was right? What am I actually just craving? And I told Ixchel this too. I remember because I was like, I know that you do field trips, that you do things as part of your education because she homeschools her little guy, and she's an incredible teacher, giving him incredible experiences. I said, I know that you do all of those things, Ixchel, but for the next few weeks, like pick things that will actually be expansive for you as well. Like things that are going to feel like really giddy for you. And so I love too that it came back to music as well, reminding you of the music in the car and different places where your soul gets to dance and play. I think that remembering or choosing to maybe shift our belief around maybe I'm here to have a life of pleasure, play, and fun. Not just, I think for me, the message that I got for so long, or what I had internalized for myself, is that a life of service doesn't need to be fun. That like that's, as fun happens, cool. But like we're here to do serious things with people and to support them. And it became more militant than it was life-giving in a lot of ways because in that process, I did lose myself. I did lose what it meant to be little Evelyn too. What did it even look like to bring her into my business, to bring her into the places where I wasn't even practicing, and recognizing that those, I think it was Ethan Hawke who, and I would say art, play, pleasure, isn't a luxury, it's sustenance.
Mhm.
Sustenance. It is the thing that nourishes and nurtures and adds and builds and brings us into deeper alignment and attunement. And I go back to thinking about, and I know we have all different beliefs in this space. I come from the same, well, I believe that we are here in an intentional time. And I believe that we are given gifts and wired a certain way to carry out different kinds of healing and love in the world, just the way that we can. And in that same token, if I take that seriously, then I also have to believe that the ways that I want to play and engage the world are also meant for me, but they're meant for others. That's something too that's been really surprising, or something that I didn't take into account, is that if I bring other people into the process of what I'm discovering, into the pitfalls, into the stretchy places, things that maybe we haven't been taught, um, as leaders that we should hold up as examples, because at least for me, the message I got, you should be pristine, you should be above reproach, you should be outside and away from showing vulnerability or whatever that means, so that we can appear strong in front of people. What I realized I craved in a lot of my own journey was I wanted to see the leaders in my life actually being uh, able to show me the struggle too. That also has been a relief to me. Not even just the struggle, but the process. Not here's the finished product, not here's how you hold this thing, but instead I want it to be down in the dirt, in the question, in the curiosity. And when I allow people into that process with myself, they're able to come through it or see their own humanity in it. And Ixchel, I'm wondering too, this just came up for me too. Has your little guy noticed or said anything to you about the last 2 weeks?
It's you're good. Because I was thinking of mentioning a story. So, recently, I mean, he hasn't mentioned anything. However, something came up. I had made him grits and they were really hot. And I told him, well, we'll just stick it in the freezer for a little bit to cool it down so that, we can move on because he wanted to eat it faster. And so he was adamant about sticking it in the freezer for 30 seconds. And I told him, I'm like, well, I think it's going to need more than 30 seconds in order to cool off, right? So this was my, like, it has to be done this way type of thing. And then I paused and I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's test it out. we'll take it for 30 seconds and then we'll take it back out and see what happens. And he took it out. He said to me that reflected how I was leading, and he's witnessing this, right? This sense of, but what if like I leave it in there too long and it gets cold? And I told him, you can't get it wrong. It's just, let's just test it out. I told him, you want to be a scientist, right? And part of it is leading into that curiosity with safe boundaries. Of course, you're not going to do an explosive thing without wearing your safety goggles, right? But there's nothing wrong with testing it out and just seeing what happens. And that was my way of leaning into that joy and that curiosity and allowing him to see that example and shift that in him and having space for him to see what that meant for him as well. And I could see in his little eyes, like he was just like, you see me and
Mm.
thank you and I love you. And he tested it out. He went back and forth and I gave him permission. Like I held space for him in that way. So I think these 2 weeks have been eye-opening because he is watching me, right? And of course, I am modeling this for him, but when we shift the perspective or the angle that we're coming from and allowing joy with ourselves, not only do we teach them verbally, we also show them or model it for them and give them permission for them to do the same. So that's what I saw in him.
Yes. Yes. I love it. Giving up like our rigid idea of this has to be done this way in order to go, well, let's just see. Because you've been able to test that. You know that 30 seconds in the freezer probably not going to counteract the brutality that happened on the stove. I say brutality because you're like it got too hot. Um, Not that you were super brutal because I mean, Ixchel packs a punch. I think sometimes people underestimate you, but for the most part, you're always going to be experiencing such a kindness from her. But I just remember turkeys are wild. Um, but there is a quote that I was thinking about this morning that I wanted to share that I think kind of wraps all of this together. Um, and it's from Stephen Garcia. He said, "It takes a fearless, wildfire-hearted woman to ignite discomfort simply by being herself, untamed, unapologetic, and fiercely free. Her very presence is a rebellion, a living reminder that a woman on her own terms will never be silenced or subdued." And I think that when we give ourselves that permission to be the wild women that we are, fun, engaging, you know, a, feeling like we might look silly, when we do that, we invite others into that act as well. That is a rebellion here, at least in the time and space that we're in, where the world has asked us to fall into line, where patriarchy maybe has taught us of different systems for different things. And that wild woman inside of us is craving something different, something more. Listen to her, lean in with her, be in the question of can I trust this instinct and this knowing? Where might it lead me? Because at least for me, every time I look back at the places in my life where I followed my yeses and followed those curiosities or those places in me that were craving something more, that's exactly what I received. It may not have been in the packages I was imagining they would come, but so often it was better than I imagined and often answered prayers, just as Ixchel is demonstrated too, of leaning into that, finding that aligned client who's going to also let her use her gifts in the ways that she's craving. That woman's life also will be impacted. She's invited her also to share, even before she's worked with Ixchel. Bring business cards. I want to tell people about you. And this is also the way that we ripple out into the world because when we're following those yeses, it does lead us into that expansive, wide open kind of living that I think that we're craving. Thank you so much, Ixchel, for coming on with me today and for sharing. I so appreciate you. I am going to do our card, so I will pull you back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um, okay, I pulled this card today for us, and I can't remember if I've pulled it before. It seemed familiar to me, but I am not sure. So I just can't remember at this moment. So I pulled for us the Black Madonna, Our Lady of Hermits. I transfer pain and suffering into a greater capacity of love. Who she is, the Black Madonna represents the power we all have to emerge from the darkness transformed. There are over 500 Black Madonnas throughout Europe. Historians believe many of the icons are actually of the Egyptian goddess Isis and her son Horus, which were carried over from Egypt during the Crusades. Other icons of the Black Madonna are meant to represent earth goddesses and are worshipped for the fertility miracles attributed to them. She is often depicted holding the royal scepter of a ruling monarch. Um, Psychologist Marion Woodman believes that the Black Madonna represents a new awareness of consciousness toward the earth and our bodies. She represents the wisdom we can only accrue when we go through the often painful fires of transformation. In The Pregnant Virgin, Woodman relates that only the intensity of the fire can unite body and soul. The Black Madonna helps us become conscious of the spirit and matter, of the light and the dark, of the intersection of sexuality and spirituality. This particular Black Madonna resides in the Benedictine monastery in Switzerland. The abbey is dedicated to Our Lady of the Hermits because the chapel where she resides was originally the hermitage of Saint Bernard, a ninth century hermit. This is the birthplace of the renowned alchemist Heraclius. Alchemy is the physical process of transforming base metals into unalloyed gold, which represents a spiritual and metaphysical process of burning away all obstacles to just be the soul. The Black Madonna is loved for having been through the fires of loss and for emerging with a greater capacity to love. Every afternoon for hundreds of years, the monks of the abbey have come out from the meditation to sing Salve Regina to Our Lady of the Hermits. When your soul selects her card. For millennia, the body, the earth, all forms of matter have been devalued and misunderstood. The dark has been so vilified, yet all life emerges from the pitch black womb. The darkness is potential. It's the crucial and elemental stage we must all go through to create new or more life. The Black Madonna is the emblem of deep wisdom, the profound consciousness that is inherent in all things. All living and created things are energy. The body has wisdom. The earth has wisdom. And the pain we experience as human contains deep wisdom. When we are in the fires of suffering, it can be difficult to trust that gold is being forged. It can be hard to trust when we are in terrific pain that there is a process at work that will make us more authentic, more alive, and infinitely freer. It can be almost impossible to accept or notice the presence of the divine when we are at our most human. The Black Madonna is the cauldron that holds us steadfastly as we endure the alchemy of integrating more soul into our existence. She is the promise that what doesn't survive the fires of suffering was never meant for us, and she is the presence that is there with us even when we might feel the most alone, reminding us that there is no darkness we can enter without being met by love. What I love about this is that when we trust that what's burning away, what's dying away, what is no longer serving us in the process, when we lean into the process of allowing those things to free us, letting old habits die away, letting some of the rigid structure of what we believe our lives needed to look like, or even when we're in the throes of grief, when we're in that overwhelm, when we have been surviving our life, there is this moment where we can trust that these places that we have been, that the darkness is serving a purpose, that there is a place where our pain is actually being transmuted, where we can lean into the trust that what is meant for us won't miss us. And that as we follow through the process, trusting that we are held, that we are loved, that we are seen, that we can um, release some of that grip and allow life to come in and support us. And again, when we shift from survival, and Ixchel talked about this too, when she nourished herself first and then took those steps, when we move out of that survival place, we are met with different invitations in life that we can follow. She could have gone a different way. She could have chose a different salon. She could have actually not booked that hair appointment at all, but she did anyway. And look where it led her. So, my dear friends, I hope that you will continue to be a fearless, wildfire hearted woman, following your yes. Let your force of life be that act of rebellion, teaching, inviting others to live expansive lives. That is how we all learn and love and lean into this process together. I'll see you next week.